Vote by mail is very important because it's a very convenient way for voters to be able to vote. There's voters that aren't able to make it to the polls on election day, and voting by mail gives them the opportunity to still vote. They have more time to do it as well. They can do it from the comfort of their own home, and they can make their voice heard by casting their votes that way.
You can mail them back to us. You can come and drop them off in person. You can drop them off at any poll site on election day. We usually will also provide a curbside drop-off for voters on election day, and then usually the Saturday before the election, we also provide a curbside drop-box location outside our office. They have to be postmarked on or before election day, and as long as we receive them within 3 days following election day, they will be accepted. So the vote by mail processing room is where we handle and process all the vote by mail ballots. They're kept in our vote by mail processing room at all times, other than when they're taken to the count room to be tallied. It is a secure room that's secured by an alarm system. It has 7 security cameras in it that monitor every area of the room. There is also access badge entry that only authorized personnel are allowed to have.
So from the moment we receive our ballots, the whole process involves checks and balances to make sure that we reconcile throughout the process. So we get the ballots in the mail.
They come in, and the first thing that we do is put them through our mail sorter. That captures the image that is on the return envelope.
And that's the data that we use to compare to what we have on our elections information management system. So our elections information management system is basically the heart of what we do. That's where we have all of our voter information, all of our precincts, all of our street indexes. It's a program that we use, and that's where all our information is stored. And that's how we are able to signature check, is because we have a record of every voter. We have their signature based on the registration form that they have filled out. So that's how we're able to compare signatures when we do our signature checking for the ballots.
There's a box on the return envelope where the voters are required to sign. When it runs through the machine, it will capture that image, allowing the staff members to be able to verify the signatures on the envelope to make sure that the signatures match what the voter has on their registration file. So staff members that conduct signature verification have gone through a signature comparison training course that taught us how to identify similarities and differences and styles of signatures. As long as it matches and it's signed, it's accepted.
Basically, that's how we validate a ballot. If it doesn't match, then we call it a challenge, and that's when the signature doesn't match, or there's, the person's deceased, or whatever the case may be.
So if a signature doesn't match, it's reviewed by several staff members, and then when it gets to the point to where we determine that it just doesn't match, then we will send a notice to the voter, giving them the opportunity to correct it so that we can count their vote.
We tell them that it needs to match what we have on our registration system. Once we do our signature checking, then we have to run the ballots again through the mail sorter to make sure that we get all the ballots that we accepted and made good based on the signature checking. Those get put into smaller groups, and then we run them one more time so that they go into their own individual precincts. The mail sorter puts them into precincts during the last time that it goes through the sorter. Once we are at that stage, then we are able to import the information into our election logs, and it tells us how many ballots are supposed to be in every precinct. So when we're opening, we have our log sheets that tell you this precinct has this many ballots. So throughout the whole process, we know, if we're off at any time, we know, and we're able to correct that. So we don't send the ballots out to the count room until everything matches on each end. So again, there's that checking and reconciling, making sure that when you're opening, you have to have, if it says you have 100 ballots, you have to make sure that that's what you actually physically have. So it's that checking throughout the whole process.
So opening of ballots is done in stations of 2 to 4 staff members. They will remove the ballot from the envelope, always being sure to keep the voters' information faced away from them to protect voters' privacy.
So the person who's opening and extracting the ballots never sees the names.
The envelopes go one way and then the ballots go another. There's no way to identify a specific ballot to a voter. And then each ballot is visually checked for any damage that might prevent it from going through our scanners. If there's a damaged ballot, meaning that there's tears in the ballot or markings in the timeline, those ballots are unable to go through our scanners. So we have a duplication board, which is a team of 4 staff members. They will duplicate the markings on the damaged ballot and mark them on a fresh, clean ballot. Each ballot, the original one and the duplicated one, is then serial stamped. This helps to create our audit trail. And then the original ballot is voided to clearly identify that ballot is not to be counted. And then the fresh, clean, duplicated ballot is the one that goes through to the tally room to be counted.
So we are comparing constantly what we have on the sorter, what we have on the elections information management system. Our election logs program helps us compare that as we go. Reconciliation is very important to make sure that that we don't count something that shouldn't have been counted, to make sure that something doesn't go through, or to make sure that everything that we sent through the mail sorter actually goes to the counting room. So it's very important that we reconcile throughout the whole process. Vote by mail starts 29 days before the election, so that's when we send out the ballots.
We start opening ballots 10 business days before the election, at which point ballots will go through our scanners.
Of course, they can't put out any results, so they're just processing and put the results out on election day at 8 p.m.
All vote by mail ballots that we receive that are eligible and verified are all counted. And at 8 p.m. on election night, the first results that you see are all of the vote by mail ballots that we received and were able to process before election day.